Now, I'm going to finish my exploration of Quakers today by taking extracts from the diaries of Virginia Woolf. Her aunt, it just gives an idea of the image of Quakers and the problems that people could have, religions or can have by having a particular image. Her aunt, Caroline Amelia Stephen, author of Quaker Strongholds, was always referred to by Virginia as the Quaker, and usually mockingly. I hear the Quaker trumpeting like an escaped elephant on the stairs, which means it's near lunchtime and Quakers don't like to be kept waiting for their meals. Virginia wrote this at the age of 22 when she was convalescing after a nervous breakdown at her aunt's Cambridge home. I feel as though I were living in a cathedral close, with the big bell of the Quaker's voice tolling at intervals. She is soporific and leisurely to an excess, and my desire begins to be to blow her up with gunpowder, she wrote to Violet Dickinson. However, as you say, she is a real lady and large-minded after her fashion, which ain't mine. She is perpetually flowing with rather trivial talk, which she nevertheless takes great and painful care to express well and pronounce exquisitely. Also, I disagree with her whole system of toleration and resignation and general benignity, which does seem to me to be woolly. Virginia, you were at the time a beneficiary of that toleration. We don't have a diagnosis for Virginia Woolf, but it does read remarkably like bipolar disorder with manic and depressive episodes. Writing to another friend, I do hope on the whole you won't adopt Quaker principles. It keeps the human spirit cool. The Quaker, by which she means her aunt in particular, has the deepest horror of criticism and is always pulling herself up for it. But her tolerance is far more severe than any criticism. She is never enthusiastic. Again, this is a revealing comment from someone whose fear of real and imagined criticism took her to the brink of suicide more than once or twice in her life. Virginia wrote literary criticism for the Times Literary Supplement. The Quaker disapproved. She thinks I'm going to sell my soul for gold and wants me to write a solid historical work. We'll come back to that suggestion shortly. Virginia did admire the style of another Quaker woman, one from Philadelphia, an American. Mrs. Pearsall Smith is a very spruce and practical edition of the Quaker, without any mysticism about her, though she too is a great light. She unmasks all the hypocrisies, how the friends prophesy at dinner out of malice so as to cheat someone out of a hot dish. 10 years later, Virginia met another admirable Quaker, Ermengarde Maitland, a stout, handsome woman of about 30, a consoling type after our cropheads and their dauntless ways. She keeps a farm and breeds prize oxen, which is far the most interesting of country pursuits. You never know what sort of calf you're going to get, and you go round the markets to judge the best sire to mate with your cow. What do you do in the evenings? I asked her. Oh, I play the double bass. It's an enormous instrument, the largest of all, and it plays an octave below the cello, so that it's the foundation of the whole orchestra. I also write children's stories, improper ones. But, my dear Ermengarde, you've just become a Quaker. Oh, well, I know that, but I told them I meant to write improper stories. It's a nice picture, isn't it? To breed bulls, write improper stories, and be a Quaker. By her 30s, Virginia's mocking stance extended to Quakers in general. She writes to Catherine Cox, who was caring for refugees in Corsica in 1916. Now, you will be a careful, sensitive creature and realize that your life is worth 20 Quakers. Besides, Quakers are notoriously long-lived and unsusceptible to shock. They stand any amount of strain and have practically no feelings. It was not till her 40s that you see her appreciation of Quaker characteristics develop. In 1932, she and her husband Leonard went on holiday with Roger and Marjorie Fry to Greece. The Frys were indefatigable, knowledgeable, loquacious. They explored, painted and botanized, while Virginia, though tired by long drives over atrocious roads and somewhat blistered by the sun, found it by far the best holiday we've had for years. Roger oozes knowledge, but kindly, warmly, like an aromatic bath. Marjorie is a maniacal botanist and squats on the rocks digging with a penknife. They hum and buzz like two boiling pots. I've never heard people talk so incessantly. What's more, there's not a word of it what you or I might call foolish. It's all about facts and information, and at the most trying moments, when Roger's inside is falling out and Marjorie must make water or instantly perish, one only has to mention Themistocles in the Battle of Plataea for both of them to become like youth in its spring. The amount they know about art, history, archaeology, biology, stones, sticks, birds and flowers is a constant reproof to me. Marjorie caught me the other day smiling at my own thoughts and said, "No Fry had ever done that." The Frys had suffered a puritanical childhood, and as young adults were still estranged from their parents despite or even because of their many achievements. Sir Edward had dismissed Marjorie's lover. Her mother never let her laugh at a story told by a man, lest she be considered fast. And Lady Fry kept them pouring tea and watering flowers. Nevertheless, the next generation of Frys grew up with Quaker values. Even though they despaired over details and restrictions, they were achievers. Ruth Fry, that was Roger's youngest sister, was a pacifist and served as secretary for the Friends War Victim Relief Fund during World War I. Roger became the Slade Professor of Art. Marjorie, the sister whom Roger called Ha, was principal of Somerville College in Cambridge for 5 years. Virginia writes after a visit to Oxford, "I ran into a wave of Fry worship that was positively oppressive. Really, Roger, if you go on like this, it will be making a Christ out of you before the end of the century. You've become a legend to the young. I'm a little alarmed at the size and luminosity of your halo." Then the girls rhapsodized about Marjorie and said Somerville was a different place. Plants grow, love grows, learning grows, all due to Marjorie. It's time I set about a Fry memoir. Remember her old aunt's direction to write a solid historical work? Well, eventually Virginia did. It was the biography of Roger Fry. But it's not only Virginia who mellowed. So did the old Frys. After the publication of the biography, Ruth Fry wrote a letter that was appreciative of the fact that Virginia had recognized that reconciliation eventually occurred between the generations. Roger Fry said the old restraint had gone and it was a real pleasure to talk to his mother. And at the grand old age of 97, Lady Fry owned that her child-rearing policies had been a mistake. Virginia was spot on about Quaker longevity. One of the values I see in comparing ourselves to Quakers is to see similarities and to raise questions. To what extent do we cling to received ideas of what it means to be a Unitarian? Are we speaking to the young? How much silence is a good thing? Is it okay not to proselytize? Is no growth okay? And if we do want growth, how much is desirable? Should we have more quiet time in our services? Or is that a matter for private spiritual practice? Are we still punching above our weight in areas of social and political enlightenment or reform? All worth thinking about and studying. After all, in the words of the immortal Oscar Wilde, only the shallow know themselves. Let's join in singing the words of the last hymn, number 149, Walk in the Light, which celebrates George Fox, a founder of the Society of Friends. He can inspire us too.